going on, Jeromes? Happy Thursday, and I won't back down. A beautiful day for some Q&A. Thank you, everyone who submitted questions. Let's fire it up. Ian F. OG Jerome. Do you think our first and second player pick this draft has to contribute right away? Could there be a holdup on Kwesi's extension? I know you can't judge a draft class for a few years, but other than Addison, we haven't had a high contribution from our draft picks. I love JJ. I think that he's a truth. In Dallas, I think that he'll be good, and Naylor will be fine as wide receiver 3, but I think we need an instant starter. Well, dirty secret about if you have a rookie that's an instant starter, it usually means that your roster's not very good. All right. And with JJ, obviously he got hurt, but even if he had been healthy, Darnold was going to start the year as a starter. Would he have hung on to it all year long? That's beside the point. But also with Dallas Turner, I mean, he was behind two starting Pro Bowl outside linebackers in Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel, right? So it's good problems to have, because if you swap it up, and I know people go Jared verse. If you would swap out Dallas Turner and Jared verse, I think that Dallas Turner would have been just as effective and efficient with the Rams as Jared verse was, because Jared verse walked in, he was penned in as a starter right away. All right, so I think it really is it's usually not a good sign if your rookie starts right away. It's just not. Now, would it be ideal if the player has that talent? Yes, as opposed to starting by default? Sure. But I'm not overly concerned about it. And as we said before, we use this example, even though it's not a perfect one because Everson was a fourth-round pick. Everson didn't start until year 5. Right? And that was a big deal because everyone's like, well, why do you sign this backup to big-time money? He hasn't even started. Yeah, he did fine. Perfectly fine. And yeah, Everson was stuck behind B-Rob and Jared Allen for all those years, but he still was productive. I mean, he's out there as a punt gunner, man. It's how much Everson loved the game. That's right. Next, R-Free, OG Jerome. Why did the team make it a point to tell everyone that Kevin O'Connell didn't gain any personnel power with his new deal? Was he expected to, or was it a possibility? Kind of seemed like when the Cards said that they did nothing in Murray's contract about studying. Kyler, come on, man. So I think what it was is it's a combination of when coaches have had success like Kevin O'Connell has, like well, he hasn't won a Super Bowl. Shut up. A 13-win season, 14-win season, won the division once. That certainly counts. And also what we did in 2023 with all the injuries, pretty damn amazing. And a lot of coaches who accomplished way less than that have had their ego swell so much that on the next contract they demanded personnel control and all these other things. But Kevin O'Connell, I feel like Kevin O'Connell, like obviously he has ego, as we all do, but he's secure enough in what he does well, and that he doesn't feel like he has to get into GM territory, personnel territory. Now, obviously he has say, of his quarterback JJ McCarthy and some offensive personnel moves, but he doesn't have the final say like Kwesi does. And I think the Vikings put it out there basically to remind people that there's separation of church and state. And I do think that Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell work well together. Kevin O'Connell is much more of a lover. Kwesi's more of a bottom line P&L guy, and I think that it's a bit of a good cop, bad cop situation, but they're both going in the right direction, and I think they both work well together, because Kevin O'Connell wanted Kirk Cousins back, damn the cost, but Kwesi's just like, no, X amount of dollars. And I'm sure that Kevin O'Connell would have loved having Sam Darnold back with J.J. McCarthy, but Kwesi's just like, no, this dollar amount. And I think it's a good working partnership. Plus, I think that the fact that the Vikings extended Kevin O'Connell but didn't extend Kwesi, a lot of people would have ran with, well, Kwesi's just going through the draft and he's going to be fired, and Kevin O'Connell's going to be head coach and GM, just like his guy Bill Belichick was back in the day. But I think they put that out there absent the Kwesi extension so that the rumors wouldn't run wild, right? And I'm not worried about the Kwesi extension. Things are going to get done. Yeah, next. Ari the Rockstar, nailed it. What kind of trade package and compensation look like to bring Kirko back to Minnesota to back up J.J. McCarthy? If we can leave the bulk of his salary with the Falcons, I think this is an old deal move. Ideal move, probably. So it's going to be unpopular, but I wouldn't mind Kurt as a backup. Number one, I think that he understands that he is the backup. I think that last year basically beat the bejesus out of him. Yeah, he's saying like, I'm too old for this ish, but I can still contribute with my mind. I can still be a plug and play backup. I can still hammer a check and go from there. And he's guaranteed a lot of money from the Falcons. Now, if the Falcons wanted to do a Brock Osweiler type trade, we could potentially work that out. So say the Vikings take on $10 million of Kirk Cousins' salary this year, and the Falcons traded a higher draft pick for the Vikings trading a lower draft pick, because you have to trade something, right? And it's exactly what the Browns did with the Texans. Brock Osweiler did, because the Texans signed Brock Osweiler after his Super Bowl run with the Broncos, instantly regretted it. They traded his ass and got his contract off their books to Cleveland, and they gave up more draft capital to make that happen. It was the first trade of its kind in the NFL. So I would consider that. Like, hey, Falcons, if you want to trade your second-round pick for our sixth-round pick, and we will take on half of Kirk Cousins' remaining money, we could do that. Now, I know a lot of people are mad that Kirk Cousins is taking enough money for the Vikings, sure, but also I don't think that there will be any locker room drama. I think that Cousins was sufficiently humbled last year. It was just like, no, I'm not about this life anymore, right? So he could sit back in an offense that he knows, working relationship that he has with Kevin O'Connell. I'm sure that he would be fine with J.J. McCarthy, and there wouldn't be locker room division. Like, there wouldn't be a part of the Vikings locker room be like, yeah, Kirk. Nah, ain't gonna happen. Yeah, but I don't know, something to consider. All right, next. Or if the Vikings are taking on just the absolute minimum of salary, a draft pick swap. That's it. Nothing more. Nothing more. Kong Chang Vang. Is there a player from last year's draft that isn't being used that you want to trade for? Mine would be wide receiver Malachi Corley. Pride of Western Kentucky. I love it. So there's a couple. Third-round pick Dwayne Carter from the Bills, formerly of Duke. I love Dwayne Carter, man. That's one of the reasons why I love Aeneas Peebles, too, because he was also at Duke during the Dwayne Carter years. Also, sixth-round pick Christian Boyd of the Saints. Didn't really get a lot of run, but I loved his game at University of Northern Iowa. I just think that he would be so good with the Vikings right now. Plus, former J.J. McCarthy teammate Zach Zinter out of Michigan, third-round pick by the Bengals. Didn't get a lot of run either, but of course, some of that was injury-related. But I mean, that's the thing about the draft is like your crushes carry over from year to year into free agency, and I have to check myself sometimes. Like, there's free agents out there that I like. Is it because that they would be good for the team, or is that because I liked them in the draft 5 years ago? I don't know. It goes back and forth, but it's a good question. I like that one. Lastly, Logan Sports 14. What do you think is the future of the fullback position? So I think that personnel is cyclical, right? And eventually it will get back to a punch you in the face, old school type game, because the spread option is all the rage right now. But also, remember in like the late 80s, early 90s, the run and shoot was a big time thing as well. So 4 receivers, no tight ends, 1 running back, no fullback. And teams like the Lions and teams like the Falcons with June Jones, they ran that offense all the time, right? And then eventually you get back to old school football, what the Patriots did, what Harbaugh did with the 49ers, getting back to heavy personnel, just running the ball. And that's timeless. I think that's always going to be a thing, because as teams eventually get lighter in terms of their personnel, their entire roster, as well as their scheme to keep up speed for speed with some of these spread offenses, eventually someone's going to get wise in this game of cat and mouse, be like, hey, let's get these heavy uglies and let's just run the ball and punch lighter defenses in the face. Because if they're lighter roster-wise, it doesn't matter their scheme. All right, because they can line up and they're still not going to be able to match up bar for bar. Also, if teams are coveting these lighter, more athletic outside zone offensive linemen, as well as these speedy, smaller move tight ends, receivers, and not having a fullback, guess what? There's going to be a market inefficiency of some of these man gap offensive linemen, some of these larger blocking tight ends, as well as fullbacks, right? So it really is a cyclical cat and mouse thing. I think that the fullback position, it's going to be coming back, baby, because I feel like running the ball is going to be at a premium. You see that the Vikings are doing that this offseason, and just someone who can block, someone who can run block, pass block, catch the ball in the backfield, spider 2 wide banana, you never go broke taking a profit. It's huge, and it is really part of the everything's cyclical. Everything does come around. So frankly, I can't wait until it gets back to power football, man. It's gonna be good to go. But that's it. That's at Vikings Q&A on this beautiful day. You guys are the best. You know what to do. Skol, production value.